Hey, what's going on, guys? Bflattened here with a brand new video today. Today we're going to be going over the Pixie Power Frost build. This is going to be utilizing spell damage, going to be utilizing Pixies, and the Brrzerker abilities for all frost damage. Let's go ahead and get into the build, shall we? So the main weapon is going to be the Chilling Fear Knot of the Champion. It is a volatile Furior that does frost damage and spawns a Pixie. You got to keep in mind, I did cover this on another previous video. There are 4 different kinds of Furior pistols that exist. There's the Fear Knot, the No Knot, the What Knot, and the Want Knot. Every single pistol will do something different. The Fear Knot is the only Furior pistol in the game that will be scaling off of spell damage. So this one's very important to have. This one is going to be doing on spellcast, increase frost damage by 30% for 5 seconds. So whenever we cast one of our 2 spells, we get that frost damage increased even further. Now, my UI stops bugging out. We can get to the next weapon. I have a handbow on here. It's kind of just a splashable weapon. I don't actually need it. It's just there in case I'm in fight for my life or I run out of reloads for my Furior. And I do, on action skill start, increase damage by 20%. This would be on the hybrid build. If you take out the Ambihextrous and you go with the Skeep dead, that's where this viability comes in for this weapon here. Otherwise, it's not really needed. It's just there for a fight for your life weapon. Now, here comes another unique one to the build. This is a Furior shotgun that does a transforming Pixie. Now, here's another thing. With Furior shotguns, there are 2 different versions of them. There's the bullet versions, and then there's the magical blast versions. The ones that shoot regular bullets are the ones that scale off of spell damage, and the ones that have the magical blast will scale off of gun damage. Why is it that way? I have no idea, but that's just all I know. You want the spell damage one, so you want to go with the non-magical blast, transform into a Pixie companion. And finally, I have this nice fancy Primordial Queen's Cry on the end. This is going to be for your flying targets or for Bernadette and your Dragon Lord fight. The Queen's Cry also scales off the spell damage, so the higher your spell damage you do, even more. Now, I throw on a Goblin Pickaxe on here for elemental damage globally, because there is quite a bit of elemental damage that's going to be coming through. And the Goblin Pickaxe, I would splash on every single build that doesn't need a specific melee weapon. And the reason being that this thing is so good is because of its passive. Now, melee attacks will guarantee you spawning gold. That's kind of cool, but it's the secondary ability that does it. Whenever you pick up gold, it doesn't matter any kind. Any kind of gold, you increase your movement speed, your spell cooldown rate, and your action skill cooldown rate by 6% for 5 seconds, and it stacks 5 times. That's 3 different abilities that you get, 30% for 5 seconds. Now, the movement speed and the spell cooldown rate are going to be the mainstays on this build. However, you can use all 3 of them on other types of builds, and it'll still be a very good splashable weapon just to have. Into the rings, I use a dual copy of Magic Championship Ring with spell damage and spell critical hit damage. Now, the Championship Rings will always have the ability where if you deal damage to a boss, you increase your percentages by 100%. If you're going more for mobs, I would suggest either the Magic Finger Ward. You have spell damage, spell crit chance, spell crit damage. When your ward is full, your abilities are increased by 100%. That's a good solid one. Or you can also go with companion damage, because companion damage rings will also work with your Pixie attacks. There's a bunch of companion rings that you can use in here to throw on. Companion critical hit chance, this is actually a really solid one. You get 17% companion damage and 17% companion crit chance while in a dungeon, and that also counts for Chaos Chambers. Your effects are increased by 25%. A lot of good solid rings to swap between. I use a Master Rune. You get your companion damage increased by 25%. I also use a different enchant on here than most people would. When your HP goes below 50%, you regen 5% max health per second, and you gain 30% damage dealt. That damage dealt will go to everything that you do. I use an amalgam with movement speed, gun damage, max health, fire rate, gun crit chance for Spellshot Brrzerker. I think that amalgams are going to be the mainstays for class mods. The higher that we go up our chaos tiers, because the 5 passes are just so good to ignore. Unless you need like a specific class mod for a certain ability, I would always throw on an amalgam on whatever build you're doing. I also use a frost damage Spellshot all damage dealt amulet. This thing here is going to be whenever you cast a spell, you reduce your remaining action skill cooldown by 20%. When your action skills on cooldown, spell damage is increased by 30%. Unfortunately, we don't use action skills, so you can't actually switch this amulet's ability out. But yeah. And I swapped over to a 2 spell. However, you can also do a hybrid version of this where you can swap to Skeep, and you can do an an action skill damage version build instead. But I like to do the 2 spells on it because using an Ice Spike with a Buffmeister helps a lot. If you haven't seen my Buffmeister video yet, I do cover everything Buffmeister. It talks about what Zap and Pew means, what Kachow and Bonk means as well. It's very, very in-depth if you want to learn more about the Buffmeister. However, the big one here is that Zap will give you 80% spell damage, and that's just way too good to ignore. So that is the build that we have here. Into our skills, I'm going to go over this kind of quickly because I don't want to take up any more video time. But we have magic bullets for spell damage and gun damage, reload speed, spell cooldown rate, and action skill cooldown rate. We have mage armor, just warming up. Fate Maker gains increased fire rate for every stack of spell weaving. Glass cannon, so we get 30% spell damage. Whenever you cast a spell, you deal bonus, her guns deal bonus damage with that spell's element for a duration. High thread count, really solid still. Max spell weaving stacks are increased. And we also get 1 slot, 1 kill. You get gun damage per stack of spell weaving. On our Brrzerker side, this is where all of our globals are going to be coming in from. We have Ancestral Frost for frost damage increase. That's going to be all of our Pixie damage. We have 1 point to regenerating HP. Fate Maker gains increased damage dealt to enemies that are slow, so if any enemies are taking frost damage, we deal bonus damage to them. Fate Maker deals bonus damage and gains increased damage reduction the closer you are to your targets. 1 point into Instinct for reload and weapon swap speed. Portion of the Fate Maker's active enrage timer and a percentage of her maximum health are restored. This is going to be for the hybrid version that I was talking about earlier if you decide to not go with two different spells like I do with Ambihextress. If you don't do the enrage version of this build, you can take those 3 points and you can stick them into the rest of Unyielding. You can stick them into Instinct. The Old Ways is also a decent one. Ancient Fury gives you maximum HP and area damage. You can also stick your points in here if you don't want to use Blood Frenzy. It would also be a decent one. The area damage actually does quite a bit. And that is our build that we have here. Ambihextress is the action skill. However, you can do Polymorph and Skeep. You would just have to switch your enchants around to a action skill version build instead. Now, last time, on my last build video, I did not show my hero stats because this is a brand new format of build videos. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys take a look at the hero points. We have max strength and dexterity, because strength and dexterity is good on pretty much every single build in this game. If you're a village idiot, I would highly suggest that because that is pretty much a mainstay for all builds. It lowers your wisdom and intelligence count, which is spell cooldown and status damage. Status damage doesn't really matter unless you're doing a spell or status damage version build, which is very, very niche. I do some points into attunement. That's just for the hybrid, if you want to do the hybrid. Constitution for the HP and ward. Now, there's a argument about this because the higher that you have for your ward and your HP, the more that it sucks for either ward abilities or health gating. I'm not really a big fan of it, but since there are HP regeneration stills in this build, it's not too bad to get above your health gating. If you don't want to have Constitution in here, slap them into dexterity for the crit chance and max that out. You'll be just fine still. Loot luck is also max as well, so if you're downloading this build, you don't have to worry about loot luck. You're going to be completely fine when it comes to the lucky dice. And that is pretty much the build. I showcased a kill really quickly at the start of the video. The main thing that you want to do with this build is you want to start off with your Buffmeister. That way you have your spell damage. Your ice spikes will be castable whenever you need them. It's a 2 charge, so you can use that whenever you need. And besides that, it's just shooting the guns a couple times, throwing your pixies out, and letting your pixies do all the damage for you. Precisely what you want. Let me go ahead and showcase one more kill for you guys, so you guys can see my rotation. I would not shoot out your entire gun, by the way, because the less bullets that you shoot out, the more damage that your pixies are going to be doing. So keep that in mind. I'll show you guys LeChance one more time. Now, LeChance is a bone bard enemy, so the frost damage is going to be doing pretty well.
I get coughed again.
So that's just it, though. You want to start with your Buffmeister. That's always going to be your lead whenever you have that available. Cast your Ice Spike, and then from there, you're just shooting and chucking, shooting and chucking, shooting and chucking. That's your precisely what you need for it. That's going to be the Pixie Power Frost build. I hope you guys enjoyed. The download is going to be in my Discord as always. Discord members will get access to the build before it goes up on YouTube, so keep that in mind. All links are going to be in the description. Besides that, my name is Bflattened, guys, and I'm signing on out of here. Take care, all. Laters.